Action Comics issue 1057 finds Superman sharing lunch with a construction worker named Glenn, who asks about what it's like being Superman. Clark knows that he's the luckiest guy he knows, as he has a brilliant wife, and while the kids have been through a lot, they are handling it well. Some pigeons join them, and Glenn finds it weird that they always come up there with him. Clark knows it's because they like the quiet up there, getting away from the bustle of the city. Glenn turns talk to his son Steven, who was recently caught stealing money from his mother's purse, and he doesn't know what to say to him, since the boy remembers when Glenn himself was in prison for stealing, and if he lectures his son about stealing, then he's just going to laugh in his face. He thinks that his son needs a dad like Superman, but Clark is quick to tell him that Steven has the perfect father, since he understands right and wrong are more than just abstracts, and he made the same kinds of mistakes Steven is making, and he had the guts to turn it all around. Superman knows that if Glenn tells him the truth, his son will respect him more than he thinks. Clark hears Lois calling from him from the Daily Planet, telling him to get to the office very quickly. Clark apologizes and goes to leave, and Glenn tells him that he doesn't have to keep coming and checking in on him, since he's got a whole universe to take care of and can't be wasting time with him. Superman assures him that he's not checking up on him, he's just having lunch with a friend. He thanks Glenn for the food and heads off through Metropolis, saving a boy from being hit by a car as he arrives in front of the Daily Planet. Clark enters the busy bullpen, telling Carol where his story on the offshore drilling is. A fellow reporter tries to get him to read over something, but Lois screams for him to get the lead out. Clark is ushered into an office where Lois tells him that they just got a call from Blue Earth and their founder wants to give an exclusive interview, and they are on their way over. Clark can't believe that Lois agreed to that, and Lyle agrees, calling them a terrorist organization, and they can't legitimize them with the Daily Planet. Lois understands, but knows this will be the first time they will be able to fact-check Blue Earth's propaganda. Lyle still believes it to be a mistake, but Lois wants to go ahead with it. Clark asks who Lois wants with her, only to find out that Blue Earth will only give an interview if Clark is the one giving it. An hour later, Clark gets mic'd up, told by Lois to be direct but not rude, something Clark doesn't know he knows how to be. Clark knows he'll be okay, but he's worried that Lois isn't, since she seems very stressed. Lois is second guessing if they should have done this, but Clark knows that she was right, since if they just said no, the Blue Earth movement would have just gone and got a softball interview somewhere else. So he knows they'll make it count. Later, Clark goes to find the interviewee, but is barged past by the Blue Earth security, who demands Jimmy get out of the room. Clark is quick to remind them that they were guaranteed photos with the interview, but only if his employer wants to. Nora Stone, the leader of the Blue Earth movement, arrives, telling her bodyguard Dorian that if they can't trust Clark Kent, then who can you trust? Clark shakes her hand, finding the young woman not what he expected. She tells him that she is from a large family of high achievers, thinking that he can relate, but Clark reveals that he was the only child raised on a farm and his parents were relieved that he actually was able to graduate. Nora has heard of the Kent humility, having followed his work for quite some time, finding how he gets a read on people impressive, almost like he's got a lie detector in his jacket. As they sit for the interview, Clark scans the woman with his various senses and visions, wanting to get started on the interview. Clark begins by asking how did Nora create Blue Earth and if her family is involved. She doesn't think that he would know her family since they are all environmental scientists, and this doesn't interest her, since she believes real magic is in the people and the influence they exert on one another. She finds the FBI labeling them as a terror threat unfair since they are humanists. Clark knows that bombings, armed riots, and xenophobic rhetoric aren't usually associated with humanism, but Nora tells him that they have never asked their followers to do any of that sort of thing. Clark can tell that she is lying through her teeth as she tells him that Blue Earth wants to save humanity from alien threats that are trying to replace them. Again, Clark tells her that Blue Earth rallies have led to assaults and attempted murder on Warworld refugees. Nora thinks that murder is something that human beings do to one another, asking Clark if an alien crashes into her home and has no vital signs that they can measure with any science of theirs, if she kills it, is that counted as murder? Clark bluntly says that it is, asking her about the Steelworks bombing and how she would count the deaths that happened there had Blue Earth actually succeeded. She says that she never met those men who did that attack and she doesn't associate with them, which again, Clark finds is a lie. He asks if she denounces them, but Nora says that years ago, a rocket brought something which looked like a human to their world, and while it probably looked like a normal human baby, it could shoot lasers from its eyes, and it smashes mountains together and flies faster than light. She knows that tells them that they need protection from alien threats. Lois knows that Lyle was right since this kid is on some sick crusade, as 40 minutes later, the interview ends and Nora finds it good to finally meet Clark, who hopes the woman's opinions continue to evolve since she is too young to be espousing very hateful views. Nora doesn't think that it's hateful to resist invasion, but Clark knows refugees and immigrants aren't invaders, quickly excusing himself. Nora doesn't think that her and Clark are so different, since she wants to make the world a safer place, just like Clark does. The only difference is, this world is her home. Clark stops in his tracks, finding Nora not to be lying this time. He quickly leaves the room and Jimmy notes how Clark doesn't look so well. Lois also notes that he's sweating, as Clark is sure that he's seen the girl somewhere before and he wants to follow her and see what she is planning. Clark assures his wife that he is fine, entering the elevator where he finds Dorian waiting. Clark thinks that they left something behind and the man says that he did, unleashing some sort of magic onto Clark before slamming him into the wall of the elevator. Dorian speeds out of the building with Clark in tow, asking if he feels weak and powerless as he throws him back down through the building. The villain tells Clark that this is all his fault and they might not have come for him had he not gotten involved. Dorian transforms into Superman, telling Clark that he's going to show him what happens when people put their faith in a monster.